Welcome back to Talking Point, and thank you for staying with us. We're now joined by Acting ASP Christopher Aroon from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. Thanks. Just a correction. It's Aroon without the J. Sorry.
My sincerest apologies. I'm seeing Arjun in front of me.
Right.
Forgive me, but
that's all right.
Thank you very much for joining me this morning, for joining Sean and I this morning on the program. And I would imagine that
pleasure to be here.
You would have been very busy over the last couple of days.
Yes.
Any updates for the public as it relates to the investigation?
Well, with respect to the threats towards the schools with the bomb scare, we have the investigation is actively ongoing. There's not much that we could say. The preliminary inquiries thus far, it appears to be a mischievous act on behalf of whatever party conducted that operation. And we are, as I said, actively investigating. We've liaised with cybercrime. We have the units that the stakeholders on board in the TTPS that pursuing these investigations. You have Special Branch, you have the cybercrime unit, you have the Criminal Investigations Department.
Do you have any information you could share with us as it relates, and this is off the bat, so if you don't, I understand, as it relates to the staffing of the cybercrime units and of the bomb squad of the TTPS?
No, I don't have actual figures with respect to that. They are, as far as we liaise one-on-one, from the Special Victims Department, we liaise one-on-one with cybercrime, and thus far they've always reported having adequate staff and resources to deal with any situation that arises, especially our investigations and Special Victims Department. It does seem that they are adequately staffed and resourced to deal with this situation that arose on Friday.
No, thankfully nothing transpired following Friday's incident. Nobody was hurt. There
were no reports of anybody hurt. We've also been liaising with the Ministry of Education, because what it did, the act, it stopped the learning process in these schools, and we expect that there would be some psychological effect on the students. And we've been liaising with the Ministry of Education. Hopefully they get their student support services in to assist with counseling the students. Where they fall short, we have the victim and witness support unit.
Go ahead.
So something like this, as far as I can remember, I don't think I've ever heard of anything quite happening like this, or at least nowhere near this scale.
Right.
Now, is this something that the schools themselves are properly prepared for? Because I understand, yes, the schools were evacuated, but we have heard some things that it wasn't necessarily all that smooth with regards to, disseminating information down to the schools, what to do, what's the procedure, because that can mean the difference between, a quick response or slow response, and if there was a real situation happening, that can make a difference.
From the policing perspective, it seemed quite adequate. The Ministry of Education would have their protocols in place when it comes to evacuation procedures, muster point locations, and they have these protocols in place for these type of incidents. So from our policing perspective, we have no harsh criticisms for the Ministry of Education, the schools. It appears that they adequately dealt with the situation. They evacuated the school within the time frame that they received the information, because you were talking about many schools within a short period of time having to evacuate. It seemed it may have caused some traffic disruption and some disruption to the parents to have to come to pick them up. But it appeared that from our perspective, it didn't cause much of a disruption.
Mr. Aroon, we know how this works. I don't expect you to be critical of any authority or any agency involved.
Yeah.
But if we could be honest with each other, is the Trans-Tobago Police Service equipped, resourced, and even properly trained to deal with instances such as this? Because that is where I said, thankfully, nothing happened.
It is normal culture for Trinidadians to believe that the TTPS isn't equipped. But we have the bomb squad technicians. We have other stakeholders that are equipped with bomb technicians, if you want to use that term. And like B-Mobile and TSTT and other entities, they are other stakeholders with the resources that we could depend on. In the past, we have done it. In this case, we have our own bomb technicians, which we've utilized. We have the dogs, the canines, sorry. We have the personnel. So was it a large scale that the police service could not have addressed it? To me, we adequately addressed it. To me, we are actively investigating it with the resources at hand. And again, from the cybercrime perspective, our colleagues at cybercrime indicated that they have the resources to investigate.
The schools were they all cleared? Each school that
as far as
that was
aware,
given a threat, they
yes.
were all
As
cleared?
far as I'm aware, yes. I can't say for 100% certain that that was done.
Right.
But as far as I am aware, because we understand there were schools as far as Sally Bay, in Port of Spain, QRC. So we understand there were schools that there were a number of schools. I understand it was 55, but I'm not too sure if all were cleared. Or you mean from the evacuation perspective?
No, from
the police.
From the threat perspective, to check to see with regards to like bombs and.
Well, I can't say. I'm not too sure because that would take a while to have it done. I haven't liaised with my colleagues in those areas to get that update.
I'm sorry. Your response just now to my question had me rather concerned.
Yes.
If you're relying on TSTT, God help all of us.
No, I'm just saying that we have stakeholders in other areas.
I know.
Yeah.
But
I'm not saying we did, huh?
TSTT is not necessarily for anti-bomb or bomb disposal technology. Telecommunications.
No, they had in my days, in my younger days, they had bomb technicians.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. And we depended simultaneously in the private sector as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So we did. But now we
cross-training.
Yeah, we did. Well, cross response to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you give the assurance this morning to all parents watching that their children are going to be safe in schools? Because it's not only the multiple schools with bomb threats across the nation, but it was that incident in Belmont Secondary School as well, with the 2 gunmen on the compound.
Yes, I spoke to Inspector Baliwa from the Criminal Investigations Department at Belmont quite recently. The incident did take place on Friday. And with respect to that, again, the investigation is ongoing. But from a policing perspective, it was responded to quite quickly because the school is basically next to the station. Within under 2 minutes, the officers were there. The perpetrators had fled the scene already. They were masked. I understand the gentleman made certain comments that we are also pursuing, but the men were masked and they were armed according to him. There was no disruption to the school or to the students. We reached out to the Ministry of Education, and what we understand is that they would get their student support services involved. However, there's no school for those students, and maybe the entire school today. I wasn't too certain on if it was for the entire school or those students.
In particular as well, you said there was a quick response. I'm wondering if that is what the TTPS, that is what their aim is, quick response. Quick response is one thing, efficient response is another, effective response is another.
No, the aim and objective of the TTPS at any point in time is to bring this sense of security.
So how did the gentleman escape?
Well, you have to understand we are operating with the information we had at hand. We had at hand. So as I said, it's an ongoing investigation.
Was it just that you all were told that there's an incident at the school and to respond to it? That is to say, it unfolded very quickly?
It was reported, as the gentleman reported, and it was responded to effectively and quickly. But I didn't understand where you were coming from with that.
In what sense?
In the sense that you didn't understand if it was just a response. For the purpose of response?
Responding quickly is good.
Yeah.
I have no criticisms for responding quickly, but this morning my co-host and I were debating on air what would a police response include, whether it be a coordinated approach to try and seal off the exits from the compound, because even running in just like that, and again, we don't know everything, which is why I'm glad you're here to inform us and educate us, but running into a compound heavily armed like that, couldn't that lead to a confrontation which could have turned out to be a gunfight in itself?
Well, I mean, it wasn't an active shooter situation where men were actively shooting at anyone. What the response was based on the information at hand. Armed gunmen means armed response. The officers are trained to, in what we call the protocol with how you respond in schools. It fails me to remember at this time, but
rules of engagement.
Yeah, it's basically rules of engagement.
Okay.
So you have to look at your background selection. You have to understand the person, the environment. So when you respond to that type of report, you have to be extra cautious in that setting. The armed response would just be almost temporary. So you have an armed response. You get into the school. You try to locate the perpetrators, and then the information quickly came that they had fled. So then it became a pursuit of these perpetrators. So they, based on the information, the officers went in pursuit of these perpetrators. So they would have had reason to mostly leave the school, leaving a small team behind to address any concerns with the students, the teachers, the principal, and the security.